Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Richard Wilmore.
Welcome, everyone. Sit, relax, relax. Welcome. My guest is an incredible artist, and I have to tell you, his album Strong has been on repeat for me. When you listen to his music, you'll get goosebumps because it's so personal. It literally feels like you're reading his journal or his diary. He's an absolute storyteller, but before we bring him out here, let's listen to his song, Strong.
For too long I've been fearing the shadows and running from the wind and feeling like I'm bound to lose again. I wanna be strong, I wanna feel invincible. For once in my life, I wanna feel like the battle is winnable. I wanna believe, and I wanna face it all head on. I wanna be strong. Like a knight in shining armor who kneels before his king. I vow to fight with all my might. I lift my voice and sing. I wanna be strong, I wanna feel invincible. For once in my life, I wanna feel like the battle is winnable. I wanna believe, I wanna face it all head on. I wanna be strong. When tomorrow's sun is rising, I will still be standing. With a faithful heart, I'll carry on. I'm gonna be strong, I'm gonna be invincible. For once in my life, I'm gonna feel like the battle is winnable. I'm gonna believe that I'm gonna face it all head on. I'm gonna be strong. I'm gonna be strong. Make your day richer than it was before. Got some good times knocking upon your front door.
Dennis, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. It is a privilege to come on your show. I love what you're doing, and I'm happy to be here.
Well, I love what you're doing because I've been obsessed. I've been listening. I told you this before the show that I've been listening to your album Strong on repeat.
Oh, wow.
Because it I don't even know how to explain it, but I have goosebumps when I think about this album. And I'm not joking. Like, it feels like you took so much time and care into every one of those songs, and it feels like in some ways like I'm reading your journal or your your diary. It feels so personal. You are such a good storyteller.
Thank you. You know what? That's what I really am, I guess. And I over the years have been writing music for a really long time, songs for a really long time. And and when my wife and I lived in Atlanta briefly, I grew up in Houston. but we lived there briefly, and I would go back and forth to Nashville, and I would try to do those writing sessions where it's like, okay, it's Tuesday. Let's just meet in here and let's write a song and try to have a hit song and all that. And you know what, Richard, I didn't know how to do that. What I do is I write about things that I uh, feel deeply and care about. You hear that. And it's so interesting because, in fact, somebody asked me from a Nashville friend asked me a few weeks ago, she said, so what's your definition of success? And I said, well, the first definition of success, the first prong of it, or whatever you want to call it, is I want to be able to say for people what they don't know how to say for themselves.
Mm.
And then, two is I want to start as many helpful and uplifting conversations as I can. And music is the best way I know how to do that. It's a great bridge, right? And then, lastly, I want to go into this writing room I'm in this second, and I want to write no shortcuts. I want to write the best song that I can write. And it was funny. Her response was, wait a minute, I've been asking this question for 15 years and nobody's ever answered it like that. You didn't mention hit songs or money or charts or somebody famous cutting your songs and in film and all that. And I said, no, wait. Of course, I would love for that. Everybody who writes would love to have more impact, right? But that's not the question you asked. The question you asked is what my own definition of success. So in my mind, I'm already a successful songwriter, no matter how big or small it is. That's a great place to get to, man, because you can really settle down as an artist and write about the things you care about. So that makes me very happy, by the way, that you've had it on repeat and it's touched your heart like that. So that means a lot, man. Thank you for saying that.
Of course, yeah. And I was thinking while I was listening to it, I wonder how long it takes him to make these albums, because I was like, does he go into the room with a bunch of writers and just go, okay, we're going to make an album? Or does it just come as it comes, and then when it feels finished, it feels finished?
Well, a little bit of both of those, but here's how it really happened for me. So I made a record in 2000 that I produced, okay? And it was my fourth album. And I'd had some success, some of my earlier stuff, especially got on the radio and stuff, and that was cool, very encouraging. But then I came home from that recording session, the last one, and I told my wife, I said, you know what, I'm going to continue to write as if I'm going to make a record pretty soon, but I'm not going to be at the helm anymore, because that's a very unique gift that people have to arrange and produce records. I don't know how to do that. And my friend and I did it. We did pretty good, I guess. But I felt like there was another gear, right? Well, I didn't know what I was talking about in terms of time. So 18 years later, Richard, I still had not gone back in the studio.
Wow.
But I had this big catalog of stuff, right? So I came home one day and I told my wife, I said, look, I'm in my mid 60s. And I said, you know what? I'm starting to feel some angst about this now, because I could die. And all of this stuff is in a drawer somewhere. Nobody's ever going to know about it. And so, what do I do? And she said, well, you have a little prayer list that you pray through every morning. It takes you an hour, and you have everybody else on there. Why don't you put something on there for yourself? And so I did. That was a good idea. And 3 months later, after 18 years, Richard, 3 months later, we're driving through Nashville. We have some great friends, many great friends there, but this guy in particular had been the guitar player for Little River Band for 20 years at that point, and he was just a genius. He's just is a genius, okay? And I know who he's working with, and I never would have asked Rich Herring to do anything for me, because I knew why would he do that, right? Because nobody knows me, and he's busy. So anyway, we go to dinner, he and his wife and their two adopted children. We go to this big Mexican restaurant, and we're sitting right in the middle, okay? So there's no hiding. And he's sitting across from me, and he says, hey, Dennis, what are you working on? Because I know you're always working on something. And I said, yeah. I said, I got this new song that Susie really likes called Why Not Me? And she thinks it's the best thing, one of the best things I've ever written. And he goes, really? He goes, what are you going to do with it? And I said, well, I don't know what to do with it. I'm going to throw it in the drawer with everything else, I guess. And he said, well, why don't you sing it to me? I said, right here in the restaurant right now? He goes, right now, just sing it to me. And so I sang, there's a mountain wide and high. I just start singing like a nut. And I get only through the first verse and the first chorus, Richard, and he holds his hand up and he said, hey, man, first of all, Susie's right about this song. And second of all, I'm supposed to help you with this. Did you know this? And so my heart leapt, man. I'm like, is this the answer that I'm looking for? So we do that record, we do that recording, and it was immediately the best recording I'd ever done.
Wow.
And then we did a sort of a Roy Orbison-ish song about forgiveness called I Can't Remember, one of my favorite things we've done together. Well, after that song, he called me and said, look, I've been doing this a long time, and I know when something really great and spectacular is happening, and I did not know you had this kind of material. Let's make an album. So we put out an album in 21, What Love Makes Us Do, and it made the first Grammy ballot in 5 categories. And then we did a record in 23 called If I Live to Be 100. It made the first Grammy ballot in 5 categories. And then we just finished and released Strong. And so no songs for 18 years, Richard, and 30 songs in 5 years. And, here's the lesson, man. You know what? If you know what you're supposed to be doing in this world, don't stop because of your circumstances. Keep doing it because you never know what's around the next corner. Talk about a surprise, man. I'm just going to dinner with friends.
Yeah.
And this is where it's taken us. And Strong has made it onto the first Grammy ballot for people to vote on in the Grammy world. But it's Americana. It's up for Americana Album of the Year. Strong is up for, I think, Record of the Year. These Three Things, which I co-wrote with Michael Peterson, is up for Song of the Year. And then my producer's up for Producer of the Year, non-classical. So, I don't know. I never plan on winning, but I like that there'll be other people in the NARAS organization that will be listening to stuff. And so, it just is what it is, man. And I'm out playing now. I stopped playing. I mean, I just did a tour. It lasted 2 months. So I'm very thankful for all of it.
Yeah, I was going to ask. Well, first of all, the album is called Strong. Why did we name it Strong?
Well, that's awesome. That's a great question because I did not plan to write the song Strong. Okay. You know what? I already had the title track, which was Relentlessly, the other song that I think you probably heard on there. That song was the title track as far as I was concerned. And I needed to go to Nashville and sing 2 more songs, and I needed to add a song. And I thought, well, I'll just go into my catalog and pull one out. Well, here's what really happened. My wife and I, on Sunday morning, we're getting ready to go to our church, and she was getting ready, and I came in and sat down at my piano. And here's what I heard, and not audibly, but in my heart, this is what I heard. For an optimist and a man of faith, you sure live a fearful life. And 99% of the things that you've been afraid of in your life have never happened to you, and they never will. And so why don't you stop living like that as best as you know how and write your manifesto? And I'm telling you, Richard, I sat there that morning. I probably, sometimes it takes me a few months to finish a song. Sometimes it comes quicker than that. In this case, I had the bones of this song done before I went to church that day. So less than an hour. And as soon as we got the track back from Rich, that, the finished mix and everything, Susie and I were sitting in our car in Georgetown, right up north of Austin. And she said, oh my goodness, this is just too much. This has to be the title song. And so, there's been a beautiful response to it, because look, Richard, everybody wants to be strong, and we live in a world that preys on our weaknesses. The media creates fear and says, you know what? the whole world is just caving in, and that's just
Yeah.
not true.
Yeah.
It's not true, and I don't want to live my life a timid life because I'm afraid of what might happen out there. We need to step out and stand up. So anyway.
Yeah. You said that you just finished a tour. Where are you located now?
Well, I'm in Austin, but we
Okay.
went to Illinois. We did gigs in Illinois, 2 shows in Ohio. We came back down through Nashville and all that. Then eventually did a show in Maine and a show in Vermont. I never been to
Oh,
Vermont. I mean, no, New Hampshire. I'm sorry. We drove through Vermont, um, and um, and so it was all over that part of the country. We were everywhere. We were down in Atlanta. You know, and then, but then I told my wife, I said, kind of like a woman who just goes through childbirth and you're wheeling her out to the car and she turns to her husband and says, "Hey, let's do this again." And you think, oh my gosh, because look, if men were having babies, there'd be a lot less people.
yeah. Yeah.
But
Yes.
women are tougher than us. And so on
Mhm.
our drive home, I looked over at Susie and I said, "Hey, you know what? Let's go west." And so we're going to try in the new year, if we have the resources and everything, to go west in probably March and April.
Oh,
And
good.
yeah, and the response to these gigs, Richard, has been I've never had this kind of response. I mean, the conversations afterwards, especially house concerts, because you invite me to your house.
Yeah.
You say, "Hey, come to my house. I'll invite my friends." Well, unlike a club or a theater, people don't feel any compulsion to walk away at the end of the show. You know what they do? They come up and talk to you.
Hmm.
And that is exactly what I want.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like house concerts. I've been to a couple. I actually, I'm in South Carolina now, but I moved from San Antonio. So
Mm,
and in there I had friends who would do house concerts, and now here I feel like that's becoming a thing, and it feels like because people want connection, and it's such
yes,
a intimate way to connect with people.
it totally is. And
Yeah.
also I had a meeting this week when I was in Nashville with my music publishing administrator, and he said, "You know what, Dennis? It's really a good time to be you." I said, "Well, I hope so." He said, "Because what's happening? There's a movement now that we are tracking of people moving now back away from already AI generated music and soulless, perfect recordings and stuff, and they're moving back to songs that and connection, like you said, that means something to them. I don't know if that's really true or not, but it sounds true. And so house concerts are the perfect place to do that. And I use a few tracks. I play by myself, so I use a few tracks from the record that I play along with, and all that. But to give people a little taste of the album, because they don't get that with just my acoustic guitar. You've heard it.
Hmm.
So that's what I hope happens, and it's a very so far that's exactly what's happening. Is there's a great connection with people. So.
Yeah, I hope you come back to launch that house concert tour, and to let everybody know that when you're starting, and how people can connect with you for those concerts, because it's such, your music is so good.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And people can come to our we do a little monthly newsletter, and I'm a terrible, by the way, in my day job, I'm a book publicist. So what I do is I go out and you write a book, I beat a drum for you like crazy, and I make people care about you and your book, right? I'm terrible at doing it for me. And what we do is the answer to that is we have a website. We have denniswelchmusic.com, and you can go there and you can do a little couple of things, email address or whatever you want to give me, and then we do a monthly newsletter to let people know, hey, this is what we did this month, and it's just once a month. We don't wear you out with anything. And these house concerts, this is how we're announcing them to these people, at least.
Hmm.
And but a lot of, you think about it, Richard, a lot of the marketing for these events is coming from the host, saying, hey, I got a songwriter from Texas, he's been on the Grammy ballot, blah, whatever they say. And then, they invite their friends and they bring their coolers and chairs and we do a show. And look, I've played every kind of place, theaters and big clubs and, opening for Poco and all these major people. And you know what? This is my favorite thing I've ever done, just for the reasons you're talking about.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. How would you describe the album Strong?
It's very personal. There's some co-writes on there, like these three things. The reason I put that up for Song of the Year is it's one of my all-time favorite songs. And I wrote that with a guy named Michael Peterson, who was a huge star in the 90s, country star. He sold 1 million copies of his first record. And he and I reconnected a year or so ago. And, and I know who he's writing with too. I just would never have asked. I mean, we were started Zooming once a week just to visit, right? And one day he said, hey man, I got some lyrics I want to send over to you and love to see what you think, what you think about them. And these three things came out of that. And now we've written 4 songs. So these three things, and also Love Will Never Fail You is a co-write with him. And so, it's in that way, it's very personal. And it also is, as far as my songwriting, I think, I had a guy, when I did my first record, it was, I had somebody fund it and, and I was like, we didn't have any money, but I had written maybe 10 or 15, 20 songs. And so the guy who was producing it's just a great guy. And this is one conversation, Richard. This is why one conversation, if you have people in your life who have your best interest at heart, you need to, in a multitude of counselors, there's safety. It really is true. And so we're walking out to the car one night and it was like less than a week before we were going in the studio to start cutting tracks. And we had Andre Crouch's touring band coming in. We had all these amazing players. And I saw that Kemper had, my producer, Kemper Crabb, he had a 3 LPs under his arm. And we're walking out to the car. He called me Denny. Almost nobody's ever called me Denny except my grandmother and my 102-year-old author, who I don't correct, okay? And so he said, Denny, can I ask you a question before you go? He goes, are you doing your best work? And I said, Kemper, why are you asking me that today? We're going in the studio on Tuesday. And it kind of aggravated me, And he said, well, okay, look, I trust you. I'm going to send you home with these 3 records. I want you to listen to them start to finish. And then you call me. And if you think that you're doing your very best work, then you know what? We go in Tuesday. And if not, then you will hold. Well, you know what he sent me home with? He sent me home with the first 2 Dan Fogelberg records and a Leonard Cohen record. Are you kidding? Like, that was not fair at all. Okay. And so I called him the next day. I said, you know what, Kemper, I love you, man, but this was a dirty trick. Okay. I said, I got to go I got more work to do. And so I that was 1981 or something. So that was 44 years ago. I still send him every single thing I do, Richard. And you know why? Because every time I sit down to do anything musically, I hear that little sentence. Hey, Denny, are you doing your best work? Don't settle. Okay. Don't make things that rhyme. Tell the story the way it's supposed to be told. And so I think I'm getting closer to that. And I feel like the response to this record has been because of that. You know what I mean? You got to do your due diligence. So
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yes. Yes. I would put you in the category of all of those people that you just mentioned because I think you're great. What do you love most about your life right now?
You know what? Everything. I really love everything. I mean, listen, I'm almost 70. I'll be 70 in January. And you know what? If you had told me, Richard, in my 30s, if you'd have said, hey, man, you know what? Your 60s are going to kill it. You're going to love your 60s. They'll be the most interesting season of your life. I would have thought you were crazy. What are you talking about? People in their 60s are old, you know. But look, here's where we are really is, you know, and look, one of the themes that keeps coming up in these interviews, you know, not necessarily today because you're a young man, your hair's still dark.
That's because I keep the camera far away.
But you know what? Some people say, listen, you're almost 70, man. What are you doing? Everybody, most people are starting to, tap the brakes a little bit, and you're just
Mhm.
getting started. And so, one of the things I love most about where I am is the influence on people especially men of a certain age, who either got pushed out of a job when they were at their peak
Yeah.
because they were a certain age, and they're like, "What? You know what? So you're showing me you can still do it." Look, I did this TV show down in Atlanta, and it was really a beautiful setup and everything. I did 3 songs, and I was interviewed. Well, when I finished the first song, the producer, who's probably as young as you, if not younger, comes out of his booth and across this big cavernous studio to me, and all the cameras had moved over here so he could do this without being seen. And he walks over to me and he looks at me, and I'm just sitting on my little stool there after I finished my song. And he said, "Dennis, I did not have any idea what you were doing. I
Wow.
just sung strong." And he said, "That was fabulous." And I said, "Well, thank you, John. I appreciate that." And you know what his next question was? "How old are you?" I said, "I'm 69 years old. I'll be 70 in January." He goes, "Can I get your phone number?" He said, "Because I'm already have people in my circle telling me this is a young man's game that I'm doing. And you don't apparently can't hear that noise." And I said,
Mhm.
"No, I know it's out there. I've chosen not to listen to it. And I'm not having, it won't change the trajectory of my life one bit because it's
Mhm.
a lie, basically." Older people, if they've kept their faculties, Richard, they know more, they have more contacts, they've probably seen everything. There's nothing that surprises them. So anyway, this is a long answer to your question, but this is why I am loving my life right now, is because I love those conversations, and I really love thinking that when I leave somewhere, somebody's life, just like perfect name for your, I hope their life is richer because we've met and had this conversation, instead of what they get everywhere else now,
Yeah.
which is I think devastating for us. It's terrible for everything, health wise and mental health and all of it.
Yes, I agree. I agree. I again want you to come back, I think every day. If I had a real show and there would be a studio band, it would be you.
Well,
But
thank you.
before we head out today, will you play a game with me?
Yes, I will.
Okay, good. It's called Name That Decade. Okay.
Okay.
And you've like you said, you've been around, you've been doing this for a while, so
Okay.
I thought this game would be fun for you.
I
No
didn't say
pressure.
I'm good at it.
Yeah. No pressure, but if you win, everybody in our non-existent studio audience gets a copy of Strong. So no
Unbelievable.
pressure.
Okay, great. Well,
Yeah.
I'll have to print some more.
Yes. Right. I'm going to give you an album and you're going to tell me what decade it's
I'm
in.
gonna try. Okay.
If you get 3 out of 5, everybody wins.
Okay.
First one, Purple Rain by Prince.
I would say 80s.
That is correct.
Okay.
That's one down, 2 to go. Respect by Aretha Franklin.
Wow. That's probably in the 60s.
Yes.
Okay.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Right. Fine. If you get this one, everybody wins. Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana.
90s.
There you go. Dennis, you got it.
Yeah.
3 in a row, just like that. Everybody in the non-existent studio audience gets a copy of Strong, so thank you for that.
That's
And thank you
great.
for coming by. I appreciate it.
Well, listen, I loved this conversation. Thank you. Great questions. I'm glad you're loving the record, and just
I
keep on
am.
going. And you know what? I hope that you, Richard, I hope we'll stay in touch with each other.
Yes, come back anytime. I mean that.
Okay, I will. I'll do that. And I hope it's a great day for you. And
Thank you.
thanks again for having me on. It's a blessing.
Yes, and if I don't talk to you, happy birthday in January.
Okay, thank you, and I've got to get there first.
Yes, yes, you'll get there. You'll get there. The album is strong. Dennis Welch. We'll take a break and be right back after this. Don't go away. I believe in the power of learning, and so does Smart Deal Academy. This incredible nonprofit serving the greater Charlotte area is changing lives through personalized tutoring, homeschool teaching, and enrichment classes for students of all ages. From pre-K phonics to private music and Spanish lessons, Smart Deal creates a safe, joyful space where kids grow in confidence and curiosity. This work only happens because of generous donations from those who believe every student deserves a chance to thrive. Every dollar fuels one-on-one support, creative programming, and the kind of encouragement that sticks with a child for life. Be a part of that impact by visiting smartdeal.com and make a tax-deductible donation today. Let's build a brighter future together. Welcome back, everyone. That's the show. On tomorrow's show, Chef Nicholas and Dr. Elizabeth Edwards are here. They're going to talk about their new book, Healthy Eating Adventure. And mark your calendars because this Saturday is the Christmas tree lighting in Waxhaw, North Carolina. So if you're around, head to the downtown park Saturday afternoon at 3 p.m. I'll be there emceeing. Go make your day richer. Go make somebody else's day richer. You've made mine by watching this show, and I love you for it. And we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.